everyone, I'm Kylie the Curly Crafter and today is Craftmas Day 9. I am super excited to share with you guys my DIY homemade ugly sweater. It is super adorable. I have a reindeer on it and I also added my own ugly sweater prints to the side. So if you guys would like to make your own ugly sweater maybe for some Christmas parties, then stay tuned in this video and let's start making our ugly sweaters. Sorry for the bad lighting for this portion of the video because I actually started the sweater about 3 nights ago. Needless to say, this piece on the sweater already is my practice run for the body, which will be this piece, and that we are going to sew directly underneath the head in the center of the sweater. I also cut out these pieces that will be used for the reindeer's legs. Now, in order to sew the body on and the head in the same way, you are going to start by pinning it down with some sewing pins so that it will stay in place when you are sewing around the border. So after you set up your sewing machine, just kind of carefully and slowly sew around the border of your body, and then make sure after sewing that you leave an open area at the bottom that you don't sew so that you can access the inside. The reason for this opening is so that we will have access to put stuffing inside of the body and make it more three-dimensional. Just keep in mind that this video is not a tutorial on how to use your sewing machine, so if you don't know how to sew, you can use hot glue, or if you already know how to sew, you can follow along. Just keep in mind and caution that you are not sewing the front of your sweater to the back of your sweater so that it is still wearable. After your reindeer's body has been stuffed with stuffing, you can either hand sew it closed, but I'm actually going to use my sewing machine. In order to do that though, just make sure you move all the stuffing out of the way from the bottom of the body in the sweater. So then you can use your sewing machine and close up the bottom of your reindeer's body. Now I'm going to use this piece of faux leather that I got at Hobby Lobby for $1.99. Using this piece of faux leather, I thought it was the perfect color to actually cut out the reindeer's antlers, so that is what I'm doing now. I also proceeded to use the fake leather to cut out partial teardrop shapes to use as the reindeer's ears. I don't have a special technique when it comes to sewing on the antlers, but I do have a few good tips. Actually, I just started off by lining up the antlers and sewing down the base stem of it, and I also recommend switching over to some brown thread, which as you can see I did not. And if you do use white like I did, it's just very noticeable where all your stitching is. So what I like to do is when sewing down the main stem or base of the antlers, I kind of sew all the way down to the end of it, and then I actually take the whole sweater off, because when it comes to all the parts that are branching off the main stem of the antler, I sew those on separately so you don't have a bunch of wonky lines going throughout your antlers. I do want to clarify that the lighting in this video changes quite often because this is the span of 3 days of me making the sweater. Keep in mind though, I had a lot of stuff to do, like editing and posting other videos, so in reality it should only take about a day for you guys to make this on your own. But that's the reason why I actually turned this video onto Craftmas Day 9 and 10 is because of the time that I was allowed to make the sweater, so it just worked out easier this way. And then you guys will see Craftmas Day 11 tomorrow. As for the reindeer's ears, I really only folded it in half with the lightest color on the inside at the bottom of the ear, and then I placed that in front of the antler, kind of where the antler and the head meet. I took it exactly like it is right now and just kind of sewed it at the bottom, but rather than sewing all the way through, I only kind of sewed a centimeter so that you could still kind of see the inside color of the reindeer's ears, and it should look like this.
So
last night I started working on my ugly sweater and I actually got as far as almost completing the reindeer. So my initial thoughts was actually to stick his butt through a wreath and this would be his backside, but I'm kind of running low on time. So I'm changing the plans to probably adding just a pom-pom for a nose and then putting like a scarf on him and having this be the front. The only downfall of that is I did not make more of these to use for arms, so he's going to be an armless reindeer, so we're going to ignore that fact. And then I also am planning on sewing some red pom-poms on the collar, the bottom, and then also printing out some heat transfer vinyl for next to the reindeer on both sides to give it that extra ugly sweater effect. So let's go finish our ugly sweater. I lost the footage of me making and sewing on the reindeer's legs, so I'm just going to tell you guys that it's really only 2 rectangles sewn together, stuffed with some stuffing, and then sewn to the bottom of the reindeer's body. As for what I'm doing now is I have this roll of some red pom-pom ribbon from Hobby Lobby that I just kind of laid around the neckline and trimmed it to size, which I did the same as for the bottom. This red pom-pom ribbon is really only going to add a little bit of extra decoration and detail to our ugly sweater. Now I'm just going to line up the piece of pom-pom ribbon with the side of the neckline, and then I'm going to get ready to sew this on. Just be very cautious of the pom-poms on it because they like to try to slide under your needle, and if they do, it could break your sewing machine, so make sure as you are going to hold the pom-poms out of the way as you sew all the way around the collar. And then once it is all sewn together, then you'll have a gorgeous and funky ugly sweater neckline. As for Rudolph's nose, I just cut a piece of pom-pom from the ribbon and glued that onto his face. This is actually some extra fuzzy fabric from Hobby Lobby that I used in my Craftmas Day 1 video on making a pillow. So I'm just going to use some of the scraps to cut out a piece of fabric to lay across his neck for some of the reindeer's fur. I also cut a kind of oval shape to go on his belly as again some more fur. Regarding attaching the fuzzy fabric, I felt like the best and easiest way was just by using some hot glue. Now that the reindeer is finished, we are going to design the pieces for our ugly sweater. So in order to do that, I went into images and then I searched in what I wanted my design to be. So the first thing I knew that I wanted was the fa la 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 saying, so I found this one and I decided to use this saying. And then I just went in and I got a reindeer for reference. This reindeer is acting like the one that's already on my sweater. And then you can go through and just type in different patterns that you might want to use. And then after you have everything selected, then you can go into the design space and kind of move around the different images and create your own super fun ugly sweater pattern. After I finished my design, I hover over it all and then I welded it together. And then you will also have to copy and paste it because you will need one pattern for each side of your reindeer. And now we can begin working on the actual vinyl. I'm going to start by heating my Cricut press to 305 degrees and then also make sure that it is set for 10 seconds. Now I'm going to talk about the vinyl I am using. I actually got it off of this website called the Heat Transfer Warehouse. It is the Walla Cut Puff and then I have it in the shade white. So I'm going to use this to print out my words. So when printing, you need to make sure that you put the matte side of your vinyl facing downwards because this is actually going to be the protective part. So make sure you have your shiny side facing upward. And then also when going to print out your vinyl, make sure the setting is on mirrored so it'll be backwards when printing. And then just kind of print it out, and then after everything is printed, we will weed out the parts that we don't want. While the other side is being cut, I'm going to begin taking off the parts of the vinyl that I don't want. So I'm going to remove the backing, and then after the backing is removed, I'm going to use my weeding stencil, and then we are just going to weed out all of the parts of the vinyl that we don't want. So that would be the inside of the letters, for example, A, and then also the other parts of your designs that you don't want to be on your shirt. Before attaching our vinyl, I'm just going to make sure I go over the fabric with the heat press just to remove all the wrinkles. Because we printed the vinyl mirrored, that means when you face it the right way on the shirt, it'll be facing the correct way. And now I'm just going to say we are only going to heat transfer one part at a time because I cannot stress enough that you are not allowed to re-go over the same part that is already have been heated. So in order to heat it, I'm just going to place it over part of the design, and then you put all of your body weight on the machine for the 10-second countdown. And then after that is done, your vinyl is a hot peel, so the second that you get off of your stencil, you are going to peel off the part that has been puffed. I'm going to use some scissors to remove my protective covering so I can heat press the bottom part of the design. And then this will just continue to puff up and cool down, and then you will have your beautiful design on your sweater. The cool thing about this vinyl I find is once being heated with your heat press like I showed you, it actually puffs up and then you will have a three-dimensional design. And also compared to heat transfer vinyl, I feel like this is way easier to work with and it has a better appearance once you are finished. We just added the vinyl onto our ugly sweater, so now we are going to try it on. Another cool thing about this sweater is between all the supplies it only costed about $25 and it is personalized. I hope that you guys enjoyed my DIY super easy ugly sweater. I absolutely love it, and actually it can be washed on cold inside out by itself. I'm not planning on wearing it too much throughout the season, so it shouldn't be a problem for me, and it is super adorable, so I definitely recommend you at least give it a try and make your own ugly sweater. If you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. Thank you guys for watching, and bye everyone!